So the mayor says it's working. I don't know if she said thank you, but she said it's working when at first she said we didn't ask for it. You shouldn't be coming here. The police chief didn't know what a chain of command was. Washington, D.C. is night and day different than it was just a couple of weeks ago. To that end, I want to get with Gregg Pemberton. He is the D.C. Police Union Chairman. Metro Police, I'm guessing, wanted this. Gregg, first of all, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Now, from what I understand, you and the union and the MPD officers all said 5 years ago we should do this. What took so long?
That's right. That's a great question because when the City Council passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Act in June of 2020, at the height of this anti-police rhetoric, which was designed to defund the police, shrink the size of the police department, limit the ability for police officers to do their jobs, expose them to administrative, civil, and criminal penalties, even when they do their job properly. We warned them then there would be a mass exodus and an exorbitant increase in crime. 5 years later, we saw both of those things come to light. We have an authorized strength of 4,000 sworn police officers, but unfortunately, we only have 3,180, leaving us with 800 vacancies for the position of sworn officer. And in 2023, we had the most violent year we've had in 2 decades. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that we need help and we need assistance. And, we thanked the president because we'll take it from wherever it comes, whether that's federal agents coming in to help us do enforcement work on the street, or whether that's National Guardsmen posted up on the corners as an additional set of eyes for us. What I can tell you is that it's been working. Crime has been driven into the basement. Robberies are down 45%, carjackings are down 86%, violent crime is down 25%, and all crime overall is down 11%. There are neighborhoods that have looked, like war zones in the past, and now we drive through them, it feels like Mayberry. It is a night and day difference here in the district.
Well, I think that you made a great point, and you made several great points, but we very quickly went by the fact that the police officers don't want to work there anymore. They're going to leave. And no new police officers want to come on if you're out writing Black Lives Matter in the middle of the street instead of making sure that police are where they need to be to keep people safe and have a peaceful Washington, D.C. Can you walk me through what it must have been like being part of the Metro PD when Bowser decided I'm going to take over an entire road and dedicate it to a Marxist organization that hates police?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the city council was really behind most of that, particularly Charles Allen and Phil Mendelson, who are two as far left as you can possibly imagine on public safety issues. They did everything they could to defund the police and eliminate our ability to do our jobs, replace us with behavioral health specialists, social workers, and violence interrupters. They took millions and millions of dollars out of the department's budget and shoveled it into programs that are empirical failures. It's been a real nightmare. And like you said, our main concern here is that under these rules that have been passed by the city council, we cannot hire police officers. So our main concern here is that the authority of the feds, it's going to end, whether that's 30 days or 60 days, or maybe they're here for 6 months. I don't know. But at some point in time, these federal agents and these National Guardsmen are going to pack up their bags and they're going to leave. And unless we fix this underlying issue of this Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Act passed by this left-wing council, we're going to be left with the same problem we had that got us here, which is increasing crime all over the place.
Gregg Pemberton, he is the D.C. Police Union Chairman. We appreciate the time. Go to dcpoliceunion.com. Let me go back to 2005 when you started at the Metro PD. You're from Chicago, right?
That's right. Yes, sir.
So you started with Metro in 2005. Can you tell me and my audience exactly the difference it was in the crime, the peacefulness, the safety and security in '05 as compared to 25? Is there a big difference? Is it about the same?
No, it's a big difference. I mean, we had almost 4,000 officers all the way up until 2020. And we, at one point in time, we had crimes down below 100. In 2012, we had 88 homicides. Between 2012 and 2010 and 2015, we were averaging 100 homicides, which is the lowest number that we'd seen in 50 years.
Right.
Now, between 2020 and 2025, we're averaging 200 homicides per year, double the number. So anybody that tells you that crime is down here in the district is playing games with the numbers, and they're being fast and loose with this data.
Well, I want to talk about that specifically. Isn't there somebody who is on leave since May who allegedly was faking the numbers? Like a carjacking would happen, Gregg, and correct me if I get this wrong. A carjacking would happen, officers would show up, this person would show up, somebody who's more superior, the bean counter, the guy who's going to write the numbers down, and instead of writing down a carjacking, he'd say simple assault. Or a rape became, something that was a civil issue. I mean, they were literally taking major crimes, unless I have this wrong, and knocking them down to something lesser to make the numbers look better. Is that true?
Well, that's exactly what's going on. And I think there's a lot of reasons to suspect that these numbers are fishy. What we know is that our members, as you just described, when they go to scenes and they try to take a report for a victim who's reporting that they were the subject of a felony, some kind of robbery, assault, a carjacking,
Right.
you name it, and they go to take those report numbers, you will inevitably have some management official who shows up or calls the officer on the phone and directs them to take a report for something less. Just as you described, a shooting becomes an injured person to the hospital, a burglary becomes an unlawful entry.
Mm.
We have all kinds of cases where they've, stolen auto is now attempt to locate, where we've changed these things from criminals to
I'm sorry,
criminal
attempt to locate?
report.
What the hell does that mean? Attempt
Yeah,
to locate?
that's a report that we take when we don't believe the car is stolen and we just want to go
Wow.
find it for the owner. So there's all kinds of ways we can change these reports, and the way that the department is using them now is to try to make sure that that crime trend stays going down, regardless of what's really happening in the street. But as you mentioned, there's a command staff official who's under investigation for going into police databases, changing felonies to misdemeanors for that same purpose, to make sure that these crime numbers are trending downward. Now, my guess here is that that commander is not doing this on his own. I think that there are directives from on high for all the commanders to be doing this, because this appears to be pattern of practice. And what we know now is that not only has the DOJ opened a criminal investigation into the falsification of these police reports, but James Comer and the House Oversight Committee has also opened a congressional investigation into whether or not these stats are correct. So I think there's a lot of reason to be suspect about people who say that crime is down in the District of Columbia.
Greg Pemberton, he's the DC Police Union chairman. Go to dcpoliceunion.com. DC is different because it's literally a D. It's a district. It's a city, but it's not its own entity. It's not like Chicago. There is special purview by Congress, by the Capitol Police, by the executive even, over what happens in the district. What do you know that the president, Article 2 executive powers, or even Congress, you mentioned James Comer, oversight, what can they do to make sure that while you've got National Guard presence there, more police officers are hired and somebody at City Hall will have their back? Because it is a special situation, right? It's not like New York or Chicago. It's special because that's where our government is.
Yeah, well, you're right over the target. Congress has authority to change the laws in the district. They've been able to do that since home rule for the past 50 years. They very rarely enact that authority, but it's time to do that. As a matter of fact, there's a bill in the Senate right now. It's already passed the House, HR 2096, Protecting the Nation's Capital Emergency Act. And that's a bill that restores rights for police officers that were taken away by the city council. And anybody who lives anywhere in the country can call their senator and encourage them to vote for HR 2096 so that we can get this thing rolling. But there more needs to be done. And what we're hoping is that while these feds are here and while they're seeing the kind of damage that's been done on the local side, hopefully they're going to Congress and they're going to ask them to put together some legislation that fixes what's happens here in the district through legislation, so that we can actually get back to staffing and hiring police officers and get unhandcuffed, so we can go out and put handcuffs on bad guys and get these neighborhoods safe.
I know that black on black crime in D.C. is a major scourge. I know that these lower numbers mean more black people in D.C. are safe. That means that they've got a more peaceful life. I've seen people interviewed on the street, they happen to be black Americans who reside in D.C., going, thank you. I appreciate I can walk to Union Station now. I can go to the grocery store and not worry about it. The kids can enjoy playing in the neighborhood. It is a sea change, and I think the main people that are being more protected are in the lower income areas and in the areas where crime was high. They're seeing a huge improvement. Do you think that's why Bowser and maybe some members of the city council are starting to go, yeah, well, I guess it is working? Because listen, you don't have to be Republican, you don't have to be Democrat. If you disagree with Donald Trump on everything, you would have to agree with him on making DC safer. So are your men and women on the streets from the police force, the Metro PD, hearing what I'm hearing in some of these interviews, that the black community very specifically is going, thank God, appreciate it?
Yeah, if you look at the polling, the Washington Post has done polling. I think there's some other independent polls that have come out showing like 81% approval for this additional law enforcement. Now, when you frame those questions as and add Trump and you add the White House, then the numbers go down a little bit
Right.
because of obviously the political bias. But when you look at it just as police officers coming into these neighborhoods, everyone seems to be in support of it. This is an 80-20 issue, clearly. And imagine that. I mean, anybody with a shred of common sense knows that if you have a neighborhood that has a crime problem and you send in police officers and you tell them to do their job professionally, responsibly, and you give them the tools to do it and you back them up, guess what? Crime goes down. What a surprise. It's an anathema to what we've heard for the past 5 years, which is we need to defund the police. We need to replace police officers with behavioral health specialists and violence interrupters. Police officers should have less authority. All of that has proven to be an abject failure. We know that it hasn't worked. The empirical data is in. And what we've seen in the last 2 weeks is exactly what should have been done from the beginning, which is more police officers with the authority to do their job, to go into these neighborhoods and address criminality and put handcuffs on criminals. That's all you need to do to keep these cities safe. It's a choice.
It's Gregg Pemberton, D.C. Police Union Chairman. I don't know, Greg. I heard Brandon Johnson from Chicago yesterday. He doesn't agree with you. 5,000 more police officers are not needed in Chicago. We need affordable housing. We need more SNAP. We need more Medicaid and welfare. It turns out if you have more counselors, crime will somehow go down in Chicago. Now, of course, I'm being facetious and stupid, but that's literally what he said yesterday. Joe Scarborough, who's not a friend of conservatism in America, is the guy that was grilling him, and Brandon Johnson would not just simply say, yes, we would appreciate having more police officers. Is that delusion? Does he really believe that? Is there something else going on here, do you think?
I don't know. I can't speak for Brandon Johnson, and I don't think I would want to if I had to. But what I can tell you is here in the District of Columbia, we hear those same arguments. And the problem is that our members have been asked to work 2 million hours of overtime every year for the past 3 years, which is 4 times the pre-2020 average. We usually
Wow.
only work about 500,000 hours of overtime. Now we're working 2 million hours. So if the police aren't needed and all of these other people can do our jobs, whoever they are, whoever you want to bring in to do these jobs, why are we working 2 million hours of mandatory overtime, which is burning officers out and sending them packing to HR so that they can go find jobs somewhere else that has less onerous and less demands on their day-to-day lives? That the proof is in the pudding. We know what the numbers are. None of these arguments add up. And frankly, it seems like the spell is broken a little bit. And I think that the vast majority of people in this country understand that if you want to address criminality, you're going to need cops, and they're going to need to be allowed to do their jobs.
Yeah, Gregg Pemberton, D.C. Police Union Chairman. Go to dcpoliceunion.com. Let's go to Minnesota. I know that you're dealing with D.C. I get it, but you're an expert, so I want to get your take on this. The Minneapolis City Council during George Floyd times wanted to defund the police, took away about $1 million from police, and then had to call a police chief in and ask why crime was up and what are you going to do about it. Then they had to sort of refund the police. Then you got Keith Ellison, who's the attorney general in Minnesota, who literally said on like a Zoom call with Karen Bass while she was still in Congress and somebody else, if you're a victim of rape and the rapist has already left the scene, don't call a cop, call a counselor. Greg, how do we turn this around? There are really, really backward people in some very important positions that are controlling our safety and security. How do we turn it around?
Well, it depends on who you vote for, right? Because it seems to be there are a lot of elected officials in this country who subscribe to an ideology where we exalt criminals to the highest level of society and we tread and trample on victims' rights, and then we blame the police for everything that happens after that. And I think anybody with a shred of common sense knows that that's not how things are supposed to work. We should have police officers, the right number of police officers. Of course, they should be doing their job responsibly, professionally, constitutionally. Nobody should be doing anything that's outside of the regular expected job of officers. But if we allow them to go in and do their job properly with the right tools and put handcuffs on people, and we have prosecutors and DAs that actually charge people and judges that sentence them to sentences that are commensurate with the crimes they committed, guess what? Crime is going to plummet everywhere. We've seen just in the past 14 days being able to go out into neighborhoods in the District of Columbia and make these kind of arrests and then bring them into Janine Pirro's prosecutorial body. Guess what? All of these criminals are running and hiding. If there's anything I know about criminals in my 20 years of law enforcement, is that they're cowards. People who victimize others for their own gain are cowards. And so when they know there's accountability on the streets and they look outside and there's armed police officers walking around looking for that kind of behavior, they're not going to commit crimes. And that's the ideology that we subscribe to, which is that we want to keep these neighborhoods safe. We want criminals not to commit crimes, or at least be afraid to commit crimes. And if they do, we want to go out and arrest them and hold them accountable. So this all comes down to who's being elected in these jurisdictions and what their ideas are behind law enforcement and public safety. But really, people need to start thinking about what it means for their neighborhood when they go to that ballot box, because it means a lot. As you just mentioned, there's people out there that want to make sure that criminals are treated better than the victims that they terrorize.
I hope this is the inflection point or the critical mass point, whatever euphemism we want to use. We know in New York it's a very blue city, but in the early 1990s they had to elect Rudy Giuliani because people couldn't walk the streets. He cleaned it up in no time, and then for some reason they started voting blue again. But you're right, you've got to vote the right people in. When you've got people in there who hate police, or even agitators, social agitators who will say you need more police presence in one neighborhood, then you put more police presence, then you say, well, why are you putting more police presence in that neighborhood? Is it a racial motivation? These people are out there to make a buck and make some sort of spotlight for themselves, but I like how you just buy the numbers. So take me back before 2 weeks ago, before the first National Guard officer showed up, before any federalization of the D.C. police. Were there really kids or bad guys on ATVs just absolutely being raucous in the streets? You couldn't drive down the streets. They were doing these smash and grab robberies of people's chains, their purses. I know that Kristi Noem had her purse stolen herself. You have staffers from D.C. being beaten up to a pulp. The guy who goes by Big Balls, I don't know what his real name is. But I mean, was it really as bad as it was being presented to us? And is it really just 180 degrees the other way right now?
In the opinion of 3,000 rank and file police officers, absolutely. Crime has been out of control for a long time. Now, the police department has reported that in 2024, crime went down 35%. Then they reported in 2025, it went down another 25%. I don't believe those numbers, as I spoke about earlier. I think that those things are juked. And I think what I know is that the vast majority of areas in the city, it's palpable. Crime is palpable. It's ubiquitous. It's in every neighborhood. It's on every street. It's uncomfortable to walk around at night. People are reluctant to come into the city and have dinner and go experience nightlife and entertainment. It has been for the past 3 or 4 years a real nightmare to be in the city from the perspective of being afraid of crime. And what we've seen in the past 14 days is a night and day difference. It really does seem like there's a whole nother situation has emerged, and it seems like there's almost no crime in a lot of these neighborhoods.
Greg Pemberton, go to dcpoliceunion.com. He's the DC Police Union chairman. Last question. You might not want to go here, and if you don't, I fully respect that. Is the chief of police competent? I saw this woman in full uniform, gun on and everything, singing a song, a Fuji song or something on stage recently. When she was asked about the chain of command, she didn't know what that term meant. Is this a competent person?
I would like to think so. She's done 25 years of federal law enforcement with the Park Police. She's held a lot of management and supervisory positions. She was the chief of the police for Park Police. I will tell you that I have my criticisms about her handling of this crisis situation, as I'll
Right,
say, given crime and then also the tumultuousness of this federal involvement. I think there's a little bit of an absence of her voice in the show.
right.
But I hope that she can get it together and she can use her staff and the other sort resources she has in the mayor's office to help us find a way out of this where we can fix the police department and keep crime down.
Go see what they do at dcpoliceunion.com. It's the DC Police Union chairman, Greg Pemberton. Greg, nice to meet you. Great information. Let's do this again soon, okay?
Joe, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.